This is Syracuse Sports, and we are so glad you are back, my friends. Please subscribe. I said please. Spotify, Apple, YouTube, but that will benefit you because that means when a new episode of Syracuse Sports pops up, you will have it on demand, ready to watch and listen when you want. And just a reminder of our Syracuse football post-game shows presented by Crouse Health, the exclusive healthcare partner for Syracuse Athletics. We hop on after every Syracuse football game, out of the locker room, after talking to players and coaches, and then we talk to you. And then our Syracuse Sports Insiders chime in as well. And being a Syracuse Sports Insider gives you direct text message access to me anytime for your thoughts, questions, opinions, and what you have to say about Syracuse football, Syracuse basketball, Syracuse sports. Yeah, basketball. It's knocking on the door, kids. They started practice this week. So, you want to text it to me? Do it anytime. And only our Syracuse Sports Insiders get featured here on Syracuse Sports and our Syracuse football postgame shows. We have two great guests for you today. One is Wes Durham. Wes is the man. He's the dean of the ACC Network, Sirius XM Radio with my guy Roddy Jones as well. He will be on the call this week along with Steve Adazio and Dana Boyle on the ACC Network for Syracuse and Duke. And no one knows the ACC better than Wes, so we're going to talk to him about some broader ACC issues and then, of course, dig in on Syracuse and Duke. Conor O'Neill from Devils Illustrated will join us later. We'll put much more of the spotlight on the Syracuse-Duke matchup in football with him, but anytime you talk Duke, you got to talk a little hoops, too. So we'll get that perspective from Conor coming up. I did want to start with this, though. Of course, in a week when he's also named the Bear Bryant Coach of the Week, Fran Brown and Syracuse got fined by the ACC $25,000 for feigning injuries, as it is put, which is faking injuries. And, guys, they're totally guilty of this. We saw it in the Tennessee game. We saw it in the Clemson game, and I can already hear you. But, Brent, everybody does it. Yeah, everybody speeds on the highway, too. But the cop got Syracuse. He pointed the radar gun out. Syracuse was too much over 65, and they got pulled over. Yes, they got made an example of. And this is something that I asked Fran Brown this week. And this was a point of emphasis from the AFCA, the American Football Coaches Association, from the officials. Coaches were clearly warned about this, and coaches were complaining about this. It's one of those things. Everybody agrees faking injuries had to be stopped and had to be addressed. But the thing about rules is they have to be enforced to be effective. You have to see that cop on the side of the highway once in a while. Like, I better slow down, right? So I was wondering, though, how Fran Brown felt about being made an example of. This is Fran Brown, one of the most outspoken coaches in college football. Winners get washed, right? There was a clip going viral just last week where Fran was saying, and I'll frame it this way, I ain't no B word, okay? Running his players after UConn. Never been afraid to shoot from the hip and speak his mind. So I asked Fran about the ACC making an example out of Syracuse this week, and here's what he had to say about it.
You said the statement speaks for itself. Faking injuries was something in college football that was universally accepted, that they had to make a rule about it. I'm just wondering how you feel that the ACC chose Syracuse to make an example of it.
I'm just trying to focus on Manny Diaz and his staff and their players. I felt what I don't want to do is take away from the fact of our players going out and winning a game against one of the better teams in the country, one of the better programs in the country, one of the best coaches in the country. They won 8 out of the last 10 8 out of the last 10 conference championships. They won 2 national championships. So I don't want to take that away from them of what our players done. I try to make it, less than what it is, or minimize that. They made a decision that whatever decision they make, and as our administration says that's what we're gonna go with, I gotta follow that, and we're gonna follow exactly what we said, and we came up with that statement. And I gotta do what Mr. Wildheck stated for me to make sure we move on and let's focus on Duke.
Which is uncharacteristic for Fran in that sense. He's somebody that will tell you what's on his mind, but like everybody else, Fran Brown has a boss. Now, there is another statement that I want to refer to here, and that is a statement that came out from the ACC. As much as Syracuse was guilty of this, and frankly, if you're going to do it, be better at it than Syracuse. Like, go back to that Tennessee game with Demetrius Samuel and Deuce Chestnut. Oh, I've fallen, right? To the point where when Samuel came back on the field, Bob Wischusen and Louis Riddick on the ABC call is like, oh, it's miraculous. Look, he's back on the field. Reminds me of that clip from Caddyshack, right? Rodney Dangerfield. Oh, my arm, it's broken, right? If you're going to fake injuries, like, at least be good at it so you don't stand out and get caught and fined. Here's the thing, though. I think the ACC owed us a little bit more than what we got. Speaking of statements, and I'm going to put it on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. So the ACC puts out this statement issuing the fine. They actually give us a specific instance, 9:25 remaining in the fourth quarter. Syracuse violates NCAA football rule 3-3-6-b, which addresses the feigning of injuries by players, declaring it, quote, unethical and contrary to the spirit of the rules. But I want you to go down to the bottom of the screen, and I'll read it for those of you just listening. The ACC considers this matter closed. Now, hold on a minute here. Zach Morris timeout, all right? This is the first time this has happened. Everybody's doing it. Syracuse was the first one to get caught. How exactly did you determine that this was the time to drop the hammer, that Syracuse was the one to be fined, and why this particular instance, which, by the way, Syracuse is up by 20 points in the fourth quarter. Clemson scores on the next play after the injury timeout. It didn't even work, but why was the time and the place this game and Syracuse for something that's new in college football? And by the way, how exactly did you determine this? They did it. I'm not saying Syracuse didn't do it, but did you consult with the Academy of Motion Arts and Sciences, who gives away the Oscars? Like, you're basically determining an acting performance. Well, who did that? Was it the commissioner? Was it the head of officials? To just say, we consider the matter closed, I think the ACC owed us more than that, especially when this is a new rule. And if you're trying to deter everybody else from doing it, which now that somebody's been fined, we'll see if that even matters. $25,000 for a lot of schools. I got that right here in my back pocket. For Syracuse, yeah, they could be doing more with $25,000 than just sending it to the ACC for something like this. So they have to be careful about this. But I think the ACC owed us a little bit more than, here's what happened, and we consider the matter closed. No, this is a new rule that everybody agrees has to be addressed, but how exactly did you come to this conclusion? I think they should have been a little more open to conversations and questions about that. But Syracuse was the one that now has to bear the scarlet letter as the first to be fined in the ACC, and I believe in the country, for faking injuries in a week where Fran Brown's name is starting to pop up with some national jobs that are going to be open. I saw a USA Today article that he'll be a target for some SEC teams, and the race for the Fran Brown extension is on. Jeff Nixon's name is starting to come up in a lot of conversations, but what Nixon and company has to do is acclimate his quarterback, Ricky Collins, in for Steve Angeli. We all hated to see that Angeli injury here, but it's Ricky's show now. So we're going to talk to Wes Durham about that, and we're going to talk to Conor O'Neill about that, not only on the Syracuse perspective, but what this Duke Blue Devils team coming in is all about to the Dome on Saturday. Just a reminder before we hear from Wes and Conor, though, that we love to feature your original music here on Syracuse Sports. And I want to share this note that I got from one of our Syracuse Sports Insiders, my guy Mike E. And Mike E. says, Brent, I know you've been looking for some music. I'm a 75-year-old retired professor from Syracuse University, and I'm now an amateur musician. I'm also 10 years clean and sober. The protagonist of this song, called Mind-Bending Mama, represents the temptation that's always out there. So, Mike, first and foremost, congratulations to you. 10 years clean and sober. Keep it going, man. I know so many people in my life that have gone through that struggle, and to make it 10 years, to make it 10 days, to make it 10 minutes, it is a struggle. And we congratulate you on that, and we appreciate you sending us Mind-Bending Mama to play, which if you are an independent artist out there, if you're in a band and you want your original music featured here on Syracuse Sports, all the info is in the show notes on how you can send us your music and have it featured here on Syracuse Sports. So let's listen to a little bit of Mind-Bending Mama from our guy Mike, and then we're going to listen to Wes Durham and Conor O'Neill talk ACC, Syracuse, and Duke football.
Mind-bending mama is a calling on me, saying good to see you, baby, I will set you free. I ain't looking for trouble, can you help me please? Mind-bending mama is a calling for me. She's a mind-bending mama. Oh, she's a mind-bending mama. She's a mind-bending mama, and she's calling for me. She said you cleaned up nicely and you're looking mighty fine. You got your act together, been a long, long time. Once we had a good thing, why was it that we stopped? Oh yeah, I got you busted by that Emerald City cop. She's a mind-bending mama. Oh, she's a mind-bending mama. She's a mind-bending mama, and she's calling me.
My guy Wes Durham is here, and we're going to start with a little fill in the blank. Wes, you ready for this?
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
Axe. Let's
Here
go,
we go.
bud. All right.
The ACC is what right now as conference play really starts to ramp up here. The ACC is blank.
It's above average from what it's been, although nobody knows that yet because the record against P4 non-conference is not great. Some of the teams we thought were going to be good are not showing that kind of, firepower yet. SMU falls into that category. Clemson's an easy one to say falls into that category. Clemson might be the most disappointing team right now in all of college football, given what we thought they would be. However, I'm encouraged by, even despite the Angeli injury, and I'll play to the crowd here a little bit, Syracuse I'm encouraged by. Really encouraged by Virginia. I think Virginia has a chance to be pretty good. I'm encouraged by Duke. I think Duke is pretty good. Despite losses to Illinois and to Tulane, I think Duke is pretty good. I think Georgia Tech has got a chance to be one of the really good stories nationally by the end of the year because of the way Brent Key's been allowed to build that program. But they got some obstacles, Syracuse being one of them, going to Atlanta. So, yeah, I think Miami and Florida State and Georgia Tech, and I would say Louisville. I'm going to put Louisville on that list right now too because I think actually I'm okay with them slow burning the start here. I mean, I'm okay. I'm okay. Up until last Saturday, I would have put California on that list too because Jaron Kiave-Sangapulatelli is the real deal now. I mean, the ball flies out of his hand, and I think Brian Harsin – by the way, a lot of people forgot Brian Harsin's the OC at Cal. A lot of people forgot that. Brian Harsin had a good thing going. I have no idea what happened there last Saturday night in San Diego, but we'll see how Cal responds this week at BC.
That's why we have Wes on the show, by the way, because he just nailed that name in one take, like he was saying Brent Axe. Just
brother, let me tell
like
you,
that. Come on.
It's taken a few attempts to get it right because Dave Archer, my partner on Falcons broadcast, will tell you Polynesian, American Samoa, those names have been the largest verbal challenge I've ever faced in my career because you're going to remember this. You follow the NFL enough. The Patriots and the Rams had a player at tight end one time named Michael Ho'omanawananui.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's a name. I remember
the Jets,
too.
The Jets also had a player, Puaha, who lined up one night, and I called him Puahua on the air, and Archer about fell out of the chair in a preseason game. But that's neither here nor there. So
my big thing there was I used to do PA for the Syracuse Crunch hockey team here.
Sure.
And so some of those hockey names.
Oh, the Eastern Bloc. That's why I say hockey guys are the most talented guys in the industry.
And they do it like they're in the flow of a hockey game. And Mike Emmerich was the absolute best at it. But,
and I had a night to sit with him at dinner one time. And I specifically said, how do you process Eastern Bloc?
Yes. That's a whole podcast in and of itself.
It's a whole podcast. But his PhD, he had a PhD in English and education. Mike Emmerich's PhD is in English. So, I mean, he knew how to process the languages and all this. Just an amazing night, period. But, yeah, the Eastern Bloc guys, the hockey announcers, I to this day, I say the hockey guys are the most talented guys in our industry.
No question about it. You did bring it up, though, Clemson.
Yeah.
I had Eric McLean on last week, and I felt like I was his therapist. I mean, my man is just lost in the woods.
Yeah.
He's watching film. He's watching this team. He doesn't know what's wrong, but neither do I, Wes. I'm not taking anything away from Syracuse. They went out and they beat Clemson for 4 quarters. We'll get to the faking injuries thing. That's a whole topic in and of itself. But Clemson is too talented to be this bad.
Just like Florida State was last year.
Exactly. That was exactly my point. We watched Florida State last year. Like, this team's not that bad, but This is where some cliches come to life. When we as observers, when coaches tell you it's more than about X's and O's and what's on paper, that's Clemson.
I agree.
But to what you have seen, let's try to answer the hard question here. What is wrong with this team?
Well, I think the Florida State comparison from a year ago is fair to this point in this light. I think Clemson's, and I said this Monday on ACC Today with Roddy Jones, I think Clemson's biggest problem is Clemson, and it's going to continue to be Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll use the short form comparison here. Yeah, I know nobody on the roster at Clemson won the national title against Alabama and Santa Clara and Tampa. I'm well aware of that. But what happens in these situations, by the way, nobody on the Florida State team last year had a major role in the 13-0 season the year before when they didn't get in the playoff either.
Good point.
Eventually, the foundation of a program and the culture of a program can be overwhelming to everybody, okay? Look, I think they've traded one problem for another for about 4 years. Sometimes they've been able to right the wrongs, okay? I mean, they didn't make the championship the year Kenny Pickett did the fake slide on Wake Forest. They've not made the championship a couple times, right? Florida State Louisville was 2 years ago. Clemson got there last year because Syracuse beat Miami. That's the only reason they got there, okay? And when they got there, they knew how to act. And on the one night, one stage situation, they won the game. I was kind of hoping that's what would happen to LSU on opening night, to be honest with you, in week one. It didn't. 2 years ago, Clemson didn't have wide receivers. They had a quarterback. A year ago, they struggled at wide receiver at times. The defense was kind of tumultuous. That led to Wes Goodwin being, let go and Tom Allen taking over and all that. Now they can't run the ball. They're just trading one problem for the other. Does that make sense? Annually,
Mm-hmm.
we're now trading something, whereas we had this 10, 12-year run where we didn't have any problems. We had draft picks all over the place. We had player development. So you get around to what's changed. And the convenient excuse a couple of years ago was that people like me and you and others that follow the game, well, they're not in the portal. They're not trying to go get the best players when they become available. That's not who they are. Okay, I'm buying that. I wouldn't have done that either if I was Dabo Swinney. You know why? I got 10, 12 years of foundation to say I don't need to. And I'm still not convinced he needs to. He went and got Will Helt. He got a wide receiver from FCS. He's dabbled and, picked and choosed and whatever here and there, and that's fine. But now we're talking about the long game of this. We're not talking about the short game. We're talking about a 1-3 start. And by the way, there may be a couple more L's in there too. This thing could be 7-5 before it's done. I don't think it's 2-10. I'm not ruling that out, but I don't think it is. But here's the problem. Their biggest challenge right now is themselves. And oh, by the way, they got a bye week. Can you imagine? Now, look, they're going to Chapel Hill next Saturday. That place is a mess. They have no players, discernibly, in terms of deep talent or development players. They've got a guy here and a guy there or whatever the case may be. There's all sorts of static outside that program right now for a lot of reasons.
I've heard, yeah.
Yeah, and it's been that way.
On down there.
And think about it, Brent. It's been that way since December.
Yes.
So now we're not just talking about it cranking up after you start playing games. It's been there. And now all of a sudden you're not winning. So, Luke DeCock, our buddy from Raleigh, went off the top rope today on the program, all those things. So Clemson goes to Chapel Hill next Saturday. Clemson's got nothing to lose. You know why? They're not playing Carolina. Let's go back to who they're playing. They're playing themselves.
Yeah.
And for me, it's a get-right opportunity for Clemson to prepare themselves for the next third of the season, if you will, and hopefully it'll change. If it doesn't, I rule out nothing in today's college football.
When Luke goes off the top rope, by the way, we're talking old school reference here. That's Jimmy Snuka flying off the top rope with
Ricky
that elbow.
Steamboat.
So, yeah, I cannot wait to read that. That's
It's really good. It's really good, and he's not wrong in a lot of areas.
Wes, what do you think of it? We'll get to Syracuse-Duke here coming up, as Wes is going to be on the call with Steve Adazio coming up on the ACC Network on Saturday. Who's your sideline person?
Dana Boyle. Dana Boyle.
Dana Boyle, the great Dana Boyle.
Yeah, from lacrosse and everything else.
She knows her lacrosse. Yeah,
big time.
I'm going to find her and talk some lax on Saturday. But the schedule and the announcement from the league this week, you kind of touched on it earlier. Their record against P4 is not what it should be. Well, What a coincidence. Announcement from the league this week, emphasis on that, kind of following what the SEC is doing in a way, but in their way. You look at it, Wes, I get it. I understand why, but I guess should they be doing this? And I was not a math major in school, but with 17 members of the league, like, how's this all going to work? Like, generally, do you think the idea is good? We'll just have to see how the execution goes.
Yeah, they don't have any choice. That's number one. They don't have any choice. They have to do it. Everybody else is going to be playing 9. They have to find a way to play 9. At the end of the day, how many people play 9 and what school plays 8 may be the better question. How's that determined every year? That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
If you really want to know the truth.
Yeah.
I saw the SEC unveil their 4 permanents and rotators and all these other things. And the ACC has the same television partner. I'm not breaking news here, so we'll see how that goes. My guess is that, look, it's funny, and I know you follow this a little bit, I think. It's funny how college football is acting like the Premier League right now.
Yes.
And if you go back and read this book that was written, I guess, 6 years ago called The Club, Greg Sankey actually put it on his Twitter feed 6 years ago. And I like Premier League and I like business and sports. So I went and actually got the book and read it. I highly recommend people who love the idea of the business of college football, go read this book. It's phenomenal.
Good tip.
It's the history of the Premier League and how it all came to be and everything. But long story short, somebody's going to get relegated here to playing 8 and the rest are going to play 9 every year. That's the only way I think they can do it. You can't count Notre Dame as a conference game.
No,
that's
I agree with you there.
That's an insane idea. The ACC, and by the way, the SEC does too. The SEC, both conferences have to get better at scheduling. Because, and you're the perfect guy to bring this to, because the scheduling matters to television. And why is the National Football League so successful? Because everybody thinks they got a chance every Sunday. Okay. Now, there are a lot more schools here involved, a lot more teams. So you've got to equate the scheduling out. So if the 4 leagues are all going to play the same number of conference games, does this mean down the road the conference championship game probably goes away? Probably, because as I've been told, only one league makes money on that game.
Won't miss that.
Yeah. So how does all that bear up in the next 5 to 10 years, right, Brent? And I think that's where we are. I think we have to create some degree of normalcy and equality in the structure. Look, we still haven't fixed the calendar, but at least we're going to have the same number of conference games for just about everybody.
Well,
and then if the one team takes a flyer and plays, 8, and they end up in that, we'll figure out tiebreakers and how their schedule works and all that. But to me, that's what's going to happen. 16 teams will play 9 games. A 17th will play 8 every year is the way I'm guessing it's going to go.
I think that's what's going to happen. And we're in an era now, Wes. Just this week, Syracuse was, I think, the 3rd highest watch game, that Clemson game.
That's right. Yeah.
And they are openly putting it on their Twitter feeds and social media, telling every click counts. We need you because we get bonus for that, right? Like, we need you to watch the games. Now, that's easy when it's on ESPN or ABC. A little harder when I got to toggle through my ESPN app or go somewhere and find it, right? And it's harder for them to benefit from that. But if you schedule better games, it all helps, right? So we're consumers of sports media and have for a while. I love that they're kind of educating their fan base now, like, this is how this works and this is how you can help us. And it's the easiest thing you can do is just put the game on. Just watch the game and it helps everybody.
And here's the other thing too. When you add 2 P4 non-conference games to 9-game schedules, you still get a swing on the house with somebody if you want one. The other element of it is this. If you're going to add the non-conference games, play one up if you want to, and maybe a top 25 game, and then play one that's 50 to 75. Play somebody you got some history with. There's nothing wrong with that. Go play somebody. Look, Syracuse and Maryland had a great series for years.
Penn State.
Yeah, Penn State. That would be, to me,
awesome.
And by the way, there'll be a lot of pressure on these brands to play some games. Like real games. And the Big Ten and the SEC is going to do some crossover. I'm going to be honest with you, Brent. I think the ACC and Big 12 ought to sit at a table and do a big whiteboard and figure out the next 10 years.
Totally agree. Syracuse and West Virginia have a trophy Like boom.
They had a trophy?
Yes,
Really?
the Schwartzwalder Trophy, because Ben Schwartzwalder was at both places.
There we
The
go.
winner of that series. I don't know where it is. Someone's got the trophy for whoever won the last series the last game in that series. So there you go. See, we're solving all the ACC's problems in one podcast.
We're accomplishing greatness right here.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. Jim Phillips, you'll be hearing from my agent for consulting fees. All right, let's get to Syracuse and Duke.
Okay.
As you dig in here,
Yeah.
I'm going to start on the Duke side of things.
Okay.
High-priced talent at quarterback seems to be paying off from what he's bringing to that
Pretty good.
offense. He is exciting to watch. He's one of the nation's leading passers. It's a shame that Angeli went down generally, of course,
no
and we wish
kidding.
him the best, but did not get to see him duel with Darien Mensah this week. But Ricky Collins has a chance to be like, okay, you want – because Wes, this just feels – and we could be totally wrong here, but this just kind of feels like a game. I don't know if it's going to be as crazy as NC State last week, but this feels like shootout. This feels like offense.
Oh, yeah.
This feels like we're going up and down the field here.
Well, it's not really hard to pick up that they should feel that way, because Duke is third in the ACC and 11th nationally in total yards, right? They're 10th in the ACC and 90. Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on a second. In total yards, Duke is 6th and 26th nationally. They're third in passing and 11th nationally. Okay. Syracuse in passing offense is 2nd and 5th, and they're 4th in the ACC and 23rd nationally in total. So
not a 9-6 game. I don't.
No.
Yep.
This has got more of a Saskatchewan and Montreal written on it. 3 down in the center line, and a rouge at the end maybe to win it. Who knows? I think Ricky Collins. Look, there's silver linings in every quarterback battle, assuming everybody stays right in the world we live in, and Syracuse gets to use it. I'll give you Georgia Tech, because Haynes King got a little banged up at Colorado. Guess what happened? Aaron Philo quarterbacked against Gardner Webb. Ricky Collins has already got, 14 passes to his credit. Should he have maybe thrown a few more against Colgate? Maybe. Who knows? I mean, that's neither here nor there at this point. Bottom line is this. I think the game shapes up to be a real display of terrific wide receivers, tight ends, and quarterbacks, even without Angeli. And like you, I hope Steve's able to come back. In some ways, I hope he's able to recapture a year and come back. But I will caution this. Every time we think this, something happens. Mm-hmm. And in this particular case, I'm not going to rule out Yasin Willis. I'm not going to rule out the run game that Duke has created with 3 different guys. Duke is running the ball, Brent, at better than 1.5 yards more per clip than they did a year ago. So they're actually, and Jonathan Brewer's a terrific offensive coach, much like Jeff Nixon is at Syracuse, okay? That's the other part of this that I don't want to get lost in our show on Saturday, is how good these offensive coordinators are for these teams. Jonathan Brewer has found the balance for Duke. Can Jeff Nixon find that balance for Syracuse? Because I tell you what impressed me on Saturday at Clemson was 5 straight running plays to start the game and then 7 straight throws for the first touchdown. Because they lined up and announced to Clemson in the first 5 snaps, oh, we're going to run it on you today. Now, can they do that against Duke if they did it against Clemson? Potentially, yes. And sell out house inside the dome, that's going to help. Loud house back, all those things. So, end of the day, I think it is going to be a shootout. I think it's got a chance also to be a very important game for the winner. The winner of this game does not necessarily have a smooth sail out. They've still got big games left to play. And I think in the case of Syracuse, it would be a really, really nice lift following the Clemson game for Fran's second year.
No question about it. I mean, they're already halfway to a bowl game, and not that Fran would be satisfied with just getting there, but you said it. With that schedule, all things considered, we'll see how Ricky takes over. And I think it is critical. You mentioned that fast start against Clemson, that plan.
Yeah.
They landed that haymaker, and Clemson gets knocked back into the corner. Mm-hmm. It's important for Ricky to get in that flow. Right now, he's had a little bit of the Colgate game. He had that touchdown throw to Justice Ross Simmons last week. He's not coming in cold, right?
No, and
I still think it's important for him to feel like I'm in this thing, get in a rhythm, get him flowing, and inevitably, I think this turns into that kind of back and forth game that we're all looking for.
No question. And I think the emergence of Cook, I think the emergence of Ross Simmons, Darryl Gill has been consistent now for a couple of years, as you know. I mean, he's a guy that they've been able to add into the mix there. I'm really, really interested to see what this looks like on Saturday.
Yeah, between Nixon calling the plays, the running game, the receivers, an offensive line that I think took a big step forward last week and is finally gelling a little bit. Like, honestly, it's kind of on Ricky. Like, you've got all the pieces here to come in and do what you got to do.
And he's a little different than Angeli because in going back and watching some of the Clemson game and looking at some of the other times he's appeared, his mobility factor will be interesting because Duke has got some guys defensively. Manny is still good on defense. He's not as good as he wants to be, obviously. But, they're still they're 153 against the run. But yet Trey Freeman's played a ton of football. Wesley Williams has played a ton of football. They have got, I don't know how it's going to line up, but Demetrius Witherspoon at right tackle could have, VJ Anthony in his face all day long. And VJ Anthony's a problem. He's probably going to get a chance to play in the league. Where they're missing is at linebacker. Freeman is the only real, experienced guy back there. They lost Morris last week to an injury. He won't play. They're pretty solid in the middle of the field. Terry Moore is not back from injury, though, in the secondary for him. So Chandler Rivers, who is a guy he's played since Eisenhower was in office, it feels like. But Deshaun Stone is a young guy who played a lot for him last year, who I think is a real playmaker in the secondary. But that's about all Duke has. They've got one at one level, two at one level, and two in the back. And then everybody else is just guys who've come through the system, who it works out when you play Elon. It works out last week when NC State gives it to you. That's where their struggles have come. You watch the Tulane game, Retzloff went nuts on them. The read plays and some of the stuff that Syracuse already does. You go back and watch Tulane. NC State's probably not a great example. You go back and watch the Tulane tape. It's amazing.
Last thing for you here.
Okay.
Saw this week the ACC finally decided, okay, we've had enough. We're going to find somebody for this faking injuries thing. Now, look, Syracuse did it. You watch the tape. There's no doubt about it.
Right.
They did it against Tennessee. This is one of those things where it's like, no, officer, but the person ahead of me, they were driving faster than me. It's like, yeah, but you got caught, right? So here's your ticket.
Right.
I guess my issue is, and I did an opening commentary about this, because this is new, I felt like the ACC had to explain this better. They just put out a statement. We consider the matter closed. Like, well, what's the difference between them faking injuries and you not doing anything versus why did Syracuse get caught? And I think teams need some parameters. Don't do it. And if you're going to do it, be better at it than Syracuse was, frankly, if you're going to try and get away with this thing. But because this is new, and I'm still trying to figure out, like, do you consult with the Academy of Motion Arts and Sciences to determine good acting? Like, how do you come to the conclusion, like, no, this is done, here's your fine, and try and scare off other teams from doing it?
All right, two parts to this equation for us. One, this is a point of emphasis that was set last spring by the AFCA and the NCAA subdivision on football rules, right? Okay, everybody on that part, it gets glossed over. It gets thrown in the aggregate, as you know, in the newspaper business. Oh, by the way, it's a story down here that's about that big. It's not on the front page. It's not something that gets blown up. It was reemphasized when the head of officiating, Steve Shaw, who is the national coordinator of football officials with the NCAA, used to be in the SEC, now runs the national shop. Steve talked to us in our ESPN football seminar about feigning of injuries, right? It was 5-8 minutes of
they knew this was a thing. Yeah.
Coaches have known this was a deal, and they knew eventually somebody was going to get ticketed. I don't know this to be true, but I'm going to suspect. And you're right about the ACC, unless it was already discussed in some of these coaches' calls they have, right? And some of these AD calls they have,
right?
Which I'm guessing it was. Okay,
I'm sure it was,
because there was. You mentioned the Syracuse-Tennessee game. I had a couple of games early in the year where all of a sudden, I think it was East Texas A&M where a guy took a knee or whatever when SMU was trying to crank it up, or even SMU had a guy go down, whatever the case may be. Then all of a sudden, I don't know if you realize, the week before, we'd had some, histrionics go on in a couple of other leagues. So when the situation happened the other day, and as you said, Syracuse guilty, period. You can see it. They have all the camera angles. Don't forget, we got that replay access now in the ACC. Yep. So they got all the cameras. And they're able to go back and look at it and postscript the thing. Now, should they have come out and said this had been reiterated time and again, chapter of the verse? Maybe so. But at the end of the day, as I said to some folks earlier this week, there was going to be somebody who was going to be first in the pool, who was going to, not swim when Adult Swim was still underway. Well, guess what happened? Syracuse was the first one to jump in the pool, and that's the way it happened. Now, here's the other thing, too. It's a little bit like field storming, where they've started to issue the fines. Don't be the second guy.
Correct.
That's it. Don't
and
be the
some
second.
of them might be like, yeah, we'll pay the fine. For Syracuse, just if I'm John Wildhack, you're like, I can find other ways to spend that $25,000. So don't do that. And it was interesting, Wes, because we found out Fran Brown has a boss too. Like, Fran's been pretty open and honest about a number of things, but when he was asked about it this week, and I brought that up to him, I said, this was a point of emphasis in the sport.
Oh, he knows.
How did you feel when they made you the example? He's like, I'm just getting ready for Duke, Brent. You have a boss too, and it's like everybody's just trying to move on from this thing. Yep.
Yeah, and it's not going to – I mean, look, it's affecting the game, and it's a bad look at the game.
And that's it. Everybody agrees. Like, we have to get this out of the game. But no one wants to be the first to be like, I volunteer as tribute to get this out of the game.
Let me ask you this.
It's now
you see this on Sundays anywhere? Nope.
No, you don't. No, you do not. No, you do not. Great point.
You know why? Because those guys want to keep their money.
That's right.
Not the school or the team. The guy keeps their money. And one day, Brent, in a world where we feel a lot better about the money, we're going to start hitting players in the pocket.
Yeah. I liked your movie trailer voice there. That was good. In a world. Wes, you're the best. I can't wait to see you guys come in on Saturday at the Dome, and the audience watching on the ACC Network will get a great show. As always, continued luck and success to you, my friend. Always appreciate your insight and always coming on the pod. I know you're a busy guy, so I appreciate you carving out some time for us, my friend.
Anytime, Brent.
Well, Conor is ready to go cover some Duke basketball. Seems like that's always the case, right? But hey, the football team is doing some things, and they will be here at the JMA Wireless Dome on Saturday to take on the Orange at noon. First of all, great to see you, and appreciate you hopping on the pod with us today, my friend. How are things?
Yeah, no problem. Things are going well. I joked with somebody the other day. Once I get into the cadence and rhythm of football season, it's time for basketball season to start.
Right.
So
that's right.
Let's get it going.
So on the football, it feels like every conversation about Duke starts with Darien Mensah. Let's start with how he's been playing so far, which is pretty darn well. 11 touchdowns. He's right up there in a lot of conversations at the top of the list with Steve Angeli. That's unfortunate with the Angeli injury that we can't see those two, duke it out a little bit here, no pun intended. But boy, it feels like he's worth the money, I guess is how we could put this, Conor. They made an investment at quarterback, and so far it seems to be paying off at that position.
Yeah, it's funny how that kind of gets lost in the shuffle because everybody just thinks, well, Duke football is not supposed to go out and make a shrewd move like telling the guy who threw for a program record touchdown passes in a single season, hey, thanks for doing this year. Basically, we want to upgrade, and we don't think your improvement can get to the point where you're as good or better than what we can bring in the portal. And that's how you wind up with Malik Murphy at Oregon State and Darien Mensah coming in from Tulane, and he has been as advertised to this point. He's throwing for over 300 yards. The game that they beat NC State was the first game that he didn't throw for over 300 yards, and that's because they didn't play from behind for the entire second half, and they could actually run the ball with some game script stuff. So he's a better fit for what this offense wants to do. He's a little more fleet of foot. He's able to extend plays, buy time with his feet. He's able to kind of roll and move and throw on the run, make off schedule and off platform throws. He is a little bit of a threat to keep it on zone reads and RPOs, but we haven't seen that much. So I don't know if they're waiting for that to be unveiled or if they feel like they have an explosive enough offense without the quarterback run really being a factor, because they're moving the ball. They have a deep receiver room. They have a running back room that they really like, and they've got an offensive line that brought 4 or 5 starters back. So they're able to do some things without the quarterback run. I don't know if that's something, like I said, that they might be keeping that one in the back pocket for when they really need it, but he's been everything that they could have asked him to be.
You brought up the transition from Murphy to Mensah, and the portal is out there. And Syracuse did the same thing. They went and got Ricky Collins, and he won the job in spring. And they said, well, I don't know, maybe we need another quarterback. And there's Steve Angeli sitting there. And unfortunately, after coming in and really fitting into Jeff Nixon's offense, he's out for the year with an Achilles. It can happen. That's football. Injuries happen. So there's been some reports out there, Conor, about some pretty high numbers that Duke is paying Mensah. From everything you've been able to gather, are those numbers somewhat accurate? And if so, like, where's that coming from? Is that some basketball money they're throwing at football? Or I think that's the big thing. People like, Duke is paying their quarterback how much? Not their point guard, not their center, their quarterback.
Yeah, so the accurate part is if Darien Mensah goes and wins the Heisman this year, he'll make $4 million playing for Duke. But it's an incentive and performance benchmark type of deal, which I think if the season goes how it's headed, which, you know, maybe Duke's got a pretty tough schedule, so 7 or 8 wins, maybe only 6, and playing really well. I think he's in the ballpark of between 3.1 and 3.4 million. Just put it there. It's rev share money, and it's a calculated move from Duke. They have a really creative way that they're doing things in their football front office. They kind of have a dual-headed GM system where they have one guy who I have a story linked on my Twitter profile. It's way too long to get into the weeds with right now, but basically they have a 2-pronged approach. The scouting and the X's and O's of how they go about player acquisition is actually Jason Garrett's brother, John Garrett, who spent. He's a football lifer, as you would imagine. And then their kind of salary cap guy or their analytics guy in the front office is a guy who has a background running salary cap and front office type stuff for Aussie Leagues football and is from Australia and was at Duke actually in Mike Elko's tenure getting his master's degree. And Mike went and got him involved with the football program, and he stuck around through the coaching change because he only had like 6 months left for his MBA. And now he's fully involved with the program now. So they're doing it a little differently. The one thing about Duke basketball, I don't think they're ever going to be hurting for money with outside sources funding that program. If you remember the dark money story that came out around the NCAA tournament last year, I don't think they're ever going to be pressed over there for NIL funds. So Duke can be a little creative with that rev share money in the $20.5 million.
You brought it up a little earlier, and I wanted to expand on this a little bit. So I look at Syracuse, and Ricky Collins is stepping in. He's got a pretty good running game. He's had some of his receivers been nominated for the You Got Mossed Awards, and that receiver room looks deep, which includes a couple of transfers. Offensive line that had its best performance of the year last week seems to be coming together. So if Ricky Collins does not succeed at quarterback, I hate to put the pressure on the kid, but it's going to kind of fall on him and he's got a great offensive coordinator leading the way too. Like, it's on you to make the plays. How much does Mensah kind of elevate what Duke has, and how much does it is the balance of he walked into an offense that has some experience and some talent?
Yeah, that's a fair question. It's funny. Duke returned a lot of core players, but on offense, they returned a lot of core players up front. Like the 4 or 5 starters on the offensive line coming back is a huge boost, especially because Manny in his first spring practice, their spring game, half of the spring game, they could only go like 7 on 11 because they didn't have enough offensive linemen suited up to play in it.
Oh, wow.
And now it's such a position of strength. They've got probably a couple guys that are going to be draft picks. I think the name is John Fina, former Bills offensive lineman. His son is the left tackle, Bruno Fina. And his younger son is a freshman at Duke, Roman. So there's a little Bills connection, upstate New York connection for you.
My Bills shirt on right here. You said John Fina. I perked up. I know who that is. Yeah.
But they brought in Cooper Barkate as a grad transfer from Harvard. You don't typically think of the Ivy League as producing a bunch of skill players. He's a little different. He was a legitimate 3-star recruit out of Mater Dei in California. He went to Harvard because he wanted the Harvard education and the Harvard degree. He's actually got 2 years of eligibility because he went to Harvard and graduated in 3 years, which tells you a little bit about how smart of a young man he is. Darien, they also got Andrel Anthony. They got Landon King in the portal. He's a tight end that had I didn't keep track of the You Got Mossed awards, but he mossed somebody in the end zone for NC State that kind of got Duke back into the game in the first half. Probably their 2 best running backs. You would have thought their 2 best running backs were guys that were on last year's team, but the 2 guys that have emerged are a freshman, Nate Shepard, and a grad transfer from App State, Anderson Castle, who had the big 66-yard run to kind of put away NC State over the weekend. So it's been a bit of both. When you talk about has Darien elevated the guys around him, or have the guys around him elevated Darien? He had a great connection. He's a California kid, and as I said, Cooper Barkate's from California. They're from about 4 hours apart. It's not like they grew up playing against each other or anything like that, but they've hit it off right away because they're both from out that way, and they kind of have the same California mindset, that laid back personality. But their offense is clicked in a way that last year it just did not.
Conor, flipping on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, some of the numbers don't look pretty. Last in scoring defense in the ACC. It feels like this is a team that kind of has to get in a shootout to win some games, right? So just from your perspective, there's some talented guys on that defense that are also popping individually. So how do they kind of mix that? But also it feels like generally they're still trying to build something on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, that's the side of the ball that it came together last year better than any of us really expected it to because of some of the guys they had lost. And then you're thinking, well, this year they could be even better. It's year 2 in the same system. They're more comfortable. They've got some really talented guys returning. And not to oversimplify it, but they've just not been able to tackle in space. The ball gets out on the perimeter. I mean, I said at one point early in the NC State game, the third play of the game was a 75-yard touchdown on a screen pass on like 3rd and 11. I don't know why anybody would run a pass route more than 5 yards against their defense. Just get the ball out quick. Duke has really talented pass rushers, especially on the ends with VJ Anthony and Wesley Williams. But their secondary has really struggled to tackle. And they did a better job in the second half against NC State. That's why they only gave up 2 touchdowns. And that's why they had a few stops. The turnovers really came against NC State. They had forced 1, and it wasn't even until the 3rd quarter at Tulane was their first turnover takeaway of the season. Then all of a sudden they came up with 4 against the Wolfpack. So that was a big boost to that unit's confidence that they could actually get their hands on the ball. But man, they have struggled mightily in tackling. I think Pro Football Focus had them with 17 missed tackles against NC State.
Ooh.
And then the defensive coordinator, Jonathan Packey, got up there on Monday and told us it was actually 23 the way they graded it.
Oh, wow.
So they've struggled getting the ball on the ground.
Yeah, if you watch that NC State Duke game, every other highlight was somebody like busting away 50, 60 yards. So
and
no one was tackling.
They weren't long downfield like bombs either.
Yeah.
They were,
catching runs and somebody misses a tackle and all of a sudden there we go. So Syracuse's defense has been better than that, but this game, I just don't know. It feels like the whole team's running around the track. They've got some momentum after that Clemson win, and now they're looking back like, hey, Ricky, you going to keep us going? That's the ultimate question here. I mean, Ricky Collins has all the physical talents. He did push Steve Angeli in camp, but he's just a little younger, a little more inexperienced, and I don't care who you are, you're making your first start. Now, he's at home. It's actually a sold-out dome. It's Parents' Weekend at Syracuse, so we'll see what kind of crowd it is in terms of how loud it is. Parents' Weekend crowds can be weird sometimes, where they say, hey, let's go to the football game, and then we're going to stay for 4 quarters and actually get into this thing. So we'll see how that goes. But I have no idea how this is going to go. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of things set up that this could be like the NC State game and back and forth and high scoring if Ricky gets going. But the reason he lost the job to Angeli, amongst others, Conor, was he just was a little more prone for turnovers. So if I'm Manny Diaz, I'm hopping all over that. I'm like, I'm making that kid beat me. I'm going to come after you, and let's see what you got, right? Do you think Manny's going to do that, or what's kind of his, other than what we were just talking about, what's Manny's approach on defense?
Yeah, I mean, that's everything about this defense when it was humming last year was penetration immediately at the edge positions, especially set hard edges is what they want to do. They want to kind of box you in and get TFLs. And I mean, remember last year at one point in the middle of the season when it was working really well, we kind of had this notion of, okay, if a team comes up with this many TFLs, like if they're getting 8 to 12 TFLs every game, they've got to be exposed to the big plays. And then you go and look at like the 20, 30, 40 plus yard plays allowed. They were at the top of the country for the least amount given up. Like they were really good at not giving those up at the same time as moving offenses backward. And it just kind of became like, if this is such a good defense and it works this way, why doesn't everybody play defense like this? Like, why doesn't everybody adopt this? And I think the answer there is you have to have the personnel to run it. And what was left behind from Mike Elko actually worked out better than a lot of people would have thought. The personnel was there, and it was ready to kind of take a jump forward with this new system. But now they've lost some guys that were experienced backups, and they replaced them with redshirt freshmen and true freshmen, and that's where some of the mistakes have happened. That's where some of the missed tackles come into play. I think there's a big thought process that Duke will be a lot better of a team in the second half of the season. They just kind of have to stay afloat and try to win games how they can win games at this time of year. And that's forcing turnovers and getting their offense on the field as often as possible. Because their offense right now, I mean, you know, they've had, it's not like they're scoring every single time down the field, but everything about the efficiency, everything about how many weapons they have and how many different ways they can hurt you offensively, they want to just lean into everything about that.
Well, Conor, before we go, of course, we have to talk some hoops. If we've got a Duke guy on here, you're getting ready to go to media day today, and practices are underway, and we're going to snap a finger, and basketball is going to be right on our doorstep here. What's the outlet for Duke this year? I mean, this just in, a lot of talent. They're going to be good. The whole, I think we kind of know all that, but as we sit here today, is this just same expectation, national championship, and everything that John Shire is building there at Duke? What's this Duke team look like?
Yeah, I mean, they're at the point now where their player acquisition is, I don't know if it's national championship or bust, but it's definitely Final Four or bust. I mean, if you're not in Indianapolis at the end of the year, then it's going to kind of be considered a failure. And I don't know how many other programs can say that. Maybe just the Blue Bloods, but and not even all Blue Bloods, because I don't know if the school 10 miles away from Duke can honestly say that about their team this year. But yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't envy Cam Boozer in the sense of he's the next ballyhooed freshman coming in. He's going to be probably a preseason all-ACC pick before he even plays a game of college basketball. But he's going to spend all year with people comparing him to Cooper Flagg and saying, well, Cooper Flagg affected the game in XYZ ways, and Cam Boozer can only do X and Y or something like that. It's just going to be unfair to the kid, but I don't get the sense that it matters to him very much. It's a interesting roster. I mean, they didn't lose anybody in the transfer portal. So they had their whole starting lineup get drafted last year, and they have 5 returning players, and then they're bringing in 5 freshmen. When you don't lose anybody to the portal, you don't have to bring in anybody from the portal. Now, they had Cedric Howard coming in, and then all of a sudden he goes through the draft process and becomes the 11th overall pick. So they had a transfer lined up, but that didn't play out. So it's kind of happening in fives. Like, you lose 5 to the draft, you bring in 5 freshmen, you have 5 returners. Malik Brown, a familiar name for you guys, going to get some news later if he's able to practice full contact. The little snippets they've shown us in highlights so far have not shown him as a full participant. So I think he's still recovering from that separated shoulder that was bothering him at the end of the season, an injury that happened a couple different times. So that's kind of the newsy item that we'll be looking out for today. But yeah, as far as expectations, it's always going to be sky high for this program where they are with acquisition and with the pedigree of being Duke basketball.
Well, we'll definitely have to circle back when hoops is well underway, but really appreciate your time and your perspective as always, Conor. Go check him out on Twitter, Devils Illustrated as well. Conor covers Wake Forest. He's a busy guy, so we appreciate him taking time to chat with us today here on Syracuse Sports. We'll catch up soon, my friend.
My pleasure. Thanks, Brent.
My thanks again to Wes Durham and Conor O'Neill for joining us here on the pod. Terrific insight from both of those gentlemen. They're two of the best at what they do in covering not only their respective teams, but the entire league itself. Wes Durham, the dean of the ACC, if you will, and Conor does a great job not only covering the teams right there in his circle, Duke and Wake Forest, and some of the teams he focuses on, but league matters as well. So we thank them for their insight on this Syracuse-Duke matchup and so much more. We thank our Syracuse Sports Insiders because you guys are awesome. You send us your texts and your questions, your comments, your opinions, guests you want to hear on the podcast, and just shoot the breeze. Talk SU Sports. That's what the Syracuse Sports Insider text line is for, my friends. Sign up today. It's just $3.99 a month to be a Syracuse Sports. That's like less than a Frappuccino, man. $3.99 a month. But you could try it free for 2 weeks. See what it's all about. And what it's all about is you can text me anytime, have your comments featured here on Syracuse Sports, and we exclusively highlight the comments of our insiders. We don't get opinions or anything else from Facebook, from social media. No. Syracuse Sports Insiders get their voice exclusively heard on the pod and on our Syracuse football postgame shows presented by Crouse Health, the exclusive healthcare partner for Syracuse Athletics. Looking forward to talking to you guys after Syracuse takes on Duke, highlighting a lot of your comments. We had a fun thing last week. I put it out there to our Syracuse Sports Insiders. There is a secret voicemail line. I don't put it on the screen here. I don't tell anybody what it is. But, if you ask nicely, Uncle Brent will give you the secret voicemail line. So not only do we feature your texts, we hear your voice on the pod as well. So, dun, 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 dun. Who else will be given the secret voicemail line? So that's all coming up after Syracuse plays Duke on Saturday. But we thank you for watching and listening today. Please subscribe. You hear Uncle Brent say it all the time, but it really helps when it's on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, whatever your preference is. Subscribe, follow, leave comments if you'd like. It all helps us stand out in the podcast world, and it brings you new episodes of Syracuse Sports, our Syracuse post-game shows. I went live on Sunday when we learned the news of Steve Angeli's injury. I'm bound to do that. So come on, it's Sunday afternoon. You're watching football. You're doing other things. But if you subscribe, then there it'll be. It'll pop in your inbox, if you will, your podcast inbox, and you can watch and listen on demand when you want. So we thank you for that. We thank you for being a Syracuse Sports Insider, and we thank you for sending us your original music. So we heard a little bit of it earlier in the pod. Let's let Mike take us out here with Mind Bending Mama, and we'd love to feature your original music here on Syracuse Sports. All the info in the show notes on how you can get in touch. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you after the Orange play Duke on Saturday.
My bended mama is a calling on me, saying good to see you, baby, I will set you free. I ain't looking for trouble, can you help me, please? My bended mama is a calling for me. She's a mind-bended mama. Oh, she's a mind-bended mama. She's a mind-bended mama, and she's calling for me. She said you cleaned up nicely and you're looking mighty fine. You got your act together, been a long, long time. Once we had a good thing, why was it that we stopped? Oh yeah, I got you busted by that Emerald City cop. She's a mind-bended mama. Oh, she's a mind-bended mama. She's a mind-bended mama, and she's calling me. Well, I tried to quickly exit, 'cause you know that I'm clean. But it isn't easy, baby, she's everywhere it seems. In the daylight, in the shadow, at the market, on the screen. That mind-bending mama's always making the scene. She's a mind-bending mama. She's a mind-bending mama. She's a mind-bending mama, and she's calling for me. One more time now. Disguises, she's a drama queen. She's a panther, she's a puppy, and all things in between. Acts as sweet as candy, and she gets what she wants, which is total devotion, and you know it never stops. She's a mind-bending mama. Oh, she's a mind-bending mama. She's a mind-bending mama, and she's calling for me. But now I know her story, and I'm wise to her games. No mind-bending mama's gonna drive me insane. I got the strength, I got the courage to pull me through. Watch out, that mind-bending mama isn't coming for you. She's a mind-bending mama. Oh, she's a mind-bending mama. No, may that mind-bending mama is coming for me. Well, a mind-bending mama was a-calling for me, saying, good to see you, baby, I can set you free. I ain't looking for trouble, can you help me, please? Don't care, that mind-bending mama is a-calling for me. She's a mind-bending mama. Oh, she's a mind-bending mama. She's a mind-bending mama, and she's calling for me. Watch out, that mind-bending mama isn't calling for you. Watch out, that mind-bending mama isn't coming for you.